Welcome to the Wisdom Factory, a forum for people who have knowledge, experience, and wisdom to share with the world. We're in season 2 of the Wisdom Factory, and this is all about, in the second season, wisdom technologies.
And actually, this is the last episode in the second season.
Oh no, you mean we're at the end?
Yeah, and thank you to Martin, who is closing us up, or how do you say that?
Closing us out, perhaps.
Out.
Not sweeping us up, though. Okay. And,
yeah.
And today, we're in episode, what, number 11?
Yeah, you said that already.
Yeah.
Come on.
And we have Martin Shervington, who's going to be talking about wisdom practices in social media and business.
Yeah, and the Wisdom Factory is hosted by our non-profit Paradiso Integrale, which is also a physical space here in Italy. And we invite you because we have also a retreat center in the guest house. So when you come to Italy and stay between Rome and Florence, please pass by and come and see us. Mm-hmm. And before we introduce a little bit Martin, I don't think we even need to introduce him because everybody knows him, but we will say some
words.
We
will anyway, sure.
Okay, we say some words about us, about
us first.
Worldview.
Us first.
Yes. Okay. Go on.
All right. We have been deeply inspired by Ken Wilber and the integral worldview. It has helped us to understand so much more about literally everything. And that's why we've created this show, The Wisdom Factory. We want to give to all of you the opportunity to experience what people can create inside this integral worldview and how we can all collaborate to create a better world. And you can find out more about us on our main website, thepowerofrelationship.com.
Yeah, and the newsletter of the Wisdom Factory you find in the Wisdom Factory.de. You find it there in the lower third.
Yeah.
And then we have also created a community on Google+, the Wisdom Factory. Please join us there.
Okay.
So now, Martin, some words about you. I found that.
Should he say hello or anything?
I said hello. He's all right.
Okay. We give you some short minutes.
Okay, that's enough. Wait.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Have a great day.
What I found out some time ago when you were in our first season as a guest, that you are a big fan of Ken Wilber and that you are inside the integral worldview yourself, and you really like it, and you are an author of 8 books, one of which is Developmental Coaching, but there are many more I had seen. I haven't read them yet. Maybe when God gives us more time, we will read everything. And you are also a psychologist, no? And business law and business studies.
LLB, joint honors. Oh gosh, all kinds of stuff here. I don't know what all of these initials stand for. PG DIP, organizational psychology, master practitioner, NLP.
Yeah.
NLP we know about.
We know about. I did that too.
This
so
is really
we are
impressive.
more or less on the same page. I think what we can say to you, this is enough. But I would like you to add something. I mean, as everybody knows, you have this plus your business, plus your life, and the academy. And I'm grateful to be a member there and learn things which otherwise I wouldn't learn. So now over to you.
Hello. Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, well.
So yeah, I mean, I wrote down guided organizational psychology, and I did that at University of London in part because of Ken Wilber. And this is in my late 20s. I'd done a lot of NLP training. I think that was from when I was like 24, 25. I'm 42 now. So this is something else. The journey began probably in my early, 22, 23. I started meditating in a Buddhist center in Melbourne when I lived in Australia. And then from there I found out about
NLP. Just like Ken Wilber.
I don't want to compare myself to Ken Wilber, I have to say.
Too much left.
But I got into integral studies in my late 20s. A mentor of mine, Tim Healy, had pointed me in that direction, and I spent 3 years studying. And when I study, I have the books, and I used to write notes on the side. He always got me to deface my books, the mentor. And then eventually I found that I just needed a qualification in order to be going out and doing corporate work and consultancy. So I went and did organizational psychology. So that was me almost kind of like rubber stamping the things that I'd learned, because I think NLP is a wonderful set of tools, but sometimes I think that there's many other extra perspectives that are useful. Unconventional business psychology I found really, really good. So that's kind of what I've done, is personal development, the business psychology, and that's really what I do now between Plus Your Life and Plus Your Business. It's all gone quiet. It's gone very quiet. Is it still on me? Is it still on me? Still on me? I can carry on talking. It's not.
You're mostly.
You're back.
Yes.
Heidi and Mark, you're back.
So maybe Heidi and Mark has
Yes, we didn't
a
hear.
conversation with the internet because their internet is slow. Are you back, Heidi?
Well, Marguerite, we can carry on talking.
Yeah. So tell us more about that, Martin.
So we were talking about developmental coaching. I wrote that book when I was 29, and it was, and I probably didn't publish it in the UK until later, and it was probably the first time I consolidated. And that's a lot of what you do is when you write is you bring yourself together. You give people the perspective and this book and that book and bring it into one place. And that was, it was a formative thing, I would say, for me to do, but it continued, and I have a need to write really about a lot of the experience that I've had over the last 3 years in social media, 3.5 years, 4 years, and I've got some great mentors that are very much of a similar worldview. It's about connecting, it's about relationships, it's about understanding how things work. It's about mind, it's about our responses, it's about our perceptions, and I think that that's where there's a blend really between the integral worldview and what's going on with social media, because these are tools that allow us to reach people, to connect with people, to have conversations with people, and then we've got to kind of go, why? What's going on? What does this mean? And I think the biggest part for me has been the role of community, and that's what you can do so easily and so well online, is bring people together and form culture, really. And that was something which is hard. It is harder to do in the real world, because you have to get together in a space, and then you have to have sort of agreed upon this is the way things are, and so. Whereas online, you can move things very, very quickly into a position where you have a shared culture. So I love that, and I continue to explore a lot of campaigns and a lot of things. In fact, I've been quiet on Google Plus for about 8 weeks, because I've been in the real world, walking the streets, talking to business owners and managers and customers, and building up a map of where people are at out there. And then they're not as advanced as some people think. In fact, they're pretty, in terms of the internet, they look at a couple of web pages, they may look at the phone, but they're not as deep as many of us are. And I think that's something which can be bridged.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just us now, look at this.
Yes, so I'm so excited about what you're going to tell us here about the actual content. So I think that Heidi and Mark has a really bad connection there in Italy. And from my side, I would like to understand, where did you start out with being interested in this topic that we have today?
So I'd say probably to bring things together, 3.5 years ago, I started on Google Plus, and hello, welcome back. And after about 3 days, I started to figure out things and started to map and gave people that this is how I am doing things. This is how I see things. This is how relationships are forming, and over a period of probably 3-4 months, I started to write articles called The Psychology Of. And it was things like the psychology of engaging, the psychology of relating, the psychology of connecting, the psychology of change, and all of this. And I think I've probably written about 15 of those. and I broke down what was happening in mind when people were having a particular experience or when there was a phenomena online. Is what was the internal, the subjective experience, and then within the cultural context, knowing that we're using this particular technology. And that I start to go, okay, well, this is looking, like an integral kind of perspective on what is going on. So I continued to do that and pulled that together into the academy, which is one of the main things that we have with Plus Your Business, so that throughout the experience that people go through when they're learning, they begin to understand and bring awareness really to what is going on, as opposed to it being about social media and pushing content. It's not. It's about relationships. It's about connecting. It's about developing. It's about being patient in those times when you're not feeling, it's about not making that comment. It's all of those things, and you start to see this as a lot more of a practice than simply this is how you get your content to be seen by more people. And that has continued. And I think that the social media is, you can skirt about, and you can look at the apps and you can press a few buttons, or you can understand that this is a bridge. And it's a bridge to other people, and it's a bridge to potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people, depends on the platform that you have and what you're saying and whether people are relating to it. So that's been a fascinating journey. Go on.
Yeah, I want to make some shout outs here for the people who are here. We have Lawrence Gold, we have Lovell Anfolsang, we have Aline Bounty, we have Derwin Foster, Susan Anderson, Monica Smith, Marco Gegelman, Aline Munch, Johan Clays, Monica Smith, I said, Michael Thomas, and Josie James. Did I say John Clays? And there is a comment from Chef Little. I can see if I can find it there. Yeah, I can't find it right now. So go ahead and continue if you like.
We can also ask some
questions. We got Heidi Mark back.
We are back. We changed computer because this one was breaking down. So.
Well, we've opened up the relationship a little bit between how I found myself almost trying to understand, particularly the Google ecosystem in relation to people, because there's somebody at the end of the thing, whether it's the end of the post, the end of the Hangout invite, the end of the email, the web page that people are bringing up. This is the technology. This is how information is moving, and I think that's what we learn to do here, is move information based upon the network that you have and based upon potentially search. And I think that's something which we can explore. I think that's a really important aspect of what is going on that people may not necessarily see from the outside, is that you're moving information that changes people's future decisions by altering the perceptions. And so based upon your network, you determine your future.
I have a comment. I have a comment here from Sue Ann, and she says, "Love the cycles," and I think that's a very cool. Love those cycles and rhythms of life. Did I get that right?
You did. Love those cycles and rhythms of life. And hi, Susan. And I think that I've used as a metaphor for years now surfing and waves, and it's interesting that sometimes you need to paddle like crazy, and you have the opportunity, and you get into a flow really with things. And other times you need to step back and just watch what's going on, and sometimes look at the shore and go, "I'm not surfing that today. I'm going to leave that. I can't see what to do." And that journey for me on social has been very obvious. And the reason I haven't been posting for 8 weeks is that I'm waiting for the next wave. And sometimes you create the waves, and you create the waves together. And so it's not necessarily it's a pre-given, because otherwise you could be sitting there forever and you realize you're looking at a rock face as opposed to looking at the ocean, but the wrong way. But just in case I had to explain what that metaphor was. But the idea is that by creating a movement, essentially, of people that are all aligned and all relate to a particular thing, and I have to say, big part of it is play. And that's something which I think people, when it happens, you get excited. You learn through play. You connect with people through play. It's non-competitive. It's exciting. And that's something that I'm looking, again, at bringing back. I used to do a tremendous amount of play-type activities that people would get involved in. And it's fun, but you learn. And we had up to, what, over 3,000 people involved in one campaign where we were saying, okay, why don't we do this together? So I think that social media it's the tech that allows the connections to happen, the relationships to build, movements to occur, and the movements are of information, of memes. We can talk about memes a little bit.
In the integral, at the moment, there is in the integral community, there's very fashionable to talk about we spaces and co-creation and everything. And I think what you're doing and what we are doing to a certain extent is exactly doing that.
Yeah.
Because we are beginning to create a virtual we space. Yeah. Because we might not have been able to find the right people around us here in the physical world. And what happens when we connect in this way? Not only that we get friends, which is fine, but as you said, waiting for the next wave and co-create together.
Yeah.
I mean, who at the end gets the idea is a sort of a download of what is being created in the togetherness, let's say.
No, I agree totally. I think that the we is what had been missing for me prior to Google Plus, to some extent, and particularly in relation to business. There's a lot more I and it. And I think that when people have a business and they don't look at building a community around the business, that's how you end up. And you can get attention there by advertising. And that kind of jumps over the need for other people telling the story. But it's not as deep. It doesn't last as long. You want people to be part of it. And this is what we're doing. We've got something which is going to be we-focused, and Heidi, you're going to be part of it, starting from next week. And it's even going to have we in the title. And it will change. You know, that's the point about we, is it's not what I say, it's what we want to do. And you have a guide, you have a direction, you have a kind of, but I know that things will morph. And I think that's where the excitement can come, by letting people take something and do what they want with it. Yeah. And I love that. I love gifts, given the environment. I can see it's Mark's hands up. I'm excited. I'm getting excited. I'm not quite excited because I've got a bit of admin to do, but I'm getting excited to get that.
You're describing what's going to happen, but I think probably in a mini scale that happens just in this simple broadcast that we're doing right now, because we have some kind of direction, yeah, but we're not bound to go to a specific place. It evolves as an interaction between the four of us and the audience, the people who are watching us and asking questions.
It's a dialectical exchange, if you want to take it that way. Is that, you know, we are not. I don't have a script and I want to plug this and I want this to be the outcome of this, which is very much, you know, how a lot of traditional broadcasting is. We've got to make these points and make sure that there's a website that people are directed to. So we're actually allowing, for instance, Scott to direct the show as well as you guys to be directing. And I think that is different. It's great. Should we pick up Scott's question?
Yes, I can read it if you like. Scott Marshall says, I've heard it mentioned that Google is the second-tier organization. What's your take on that?
I don't know. I can't really comment about Google. I mean, it's such a large organization. If I was to say, do I think that they are an advanced form of organization with a pretty good culture and the people I've met, I'd say, yeah, it would seem to be. But I would rather talk about the experience here of us and where we're all at. And I think that's where the opportunity is because we're on Google Plus. It's YouTube. We're talking about search. I think the cognitive need, or rather, the cognitive capability that you need in order to really understand the mapping of this place and understand how content is moving and how people are connecting and what is going on here, I think is pushing us forward. Now, whether we say that's second tier and whether, you know, or whether it, because you've got other aspects. You've got, you know, look at what happened with the announcements for the LGBT community. Look at that recently. That's very much, it was a green movement, and that's starting to spread out. I personally think that this tech brings people together. These are open doors very often. These are very often public events. Anyone can come. You're standing in the town hall, people turn up, or you turn up in this town square, and you're giving your perspective. And it's the whole town. The world is the town now. And I think that pushes you into a different space cognitively. And the allowance of whatever happens to happen is a different view. So I think that the opportunity is, and you look at some of the people here, you look how smart like David Amland is, and you look at John Cowden, you look at, you know, all of the people that are around. And okay, I'm being very Google centric, but my mentor is actually Chris Brogan. Very often, I mean, David Amland's a big one as well. But these people are seeing a perspective of social that's trans-platform, and also when you can understand the movement, as I keep saying, the movement of content into search, I think it's a huge thing. We think of Google search being where we just put you're influencing people's future decisions. That's what you're doing. So if you write a quality piece of content, then you can change the direction of 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. And I mean, I've had one piece of content with 330,000 unique visitors. Look at that from this. So I think that there's a mapping to be done. I'd rather go that way, as it pushes us further.
What comes to my mind that once we thought television would do that, but at the end it didn't really do this what we expected it to do. It could. It had the possibility to really push ahead the people, but then it ended up with a content, you know, which is not so all the time. Well, here people can choose the content, really. You know,
and the passions, absolutely, and there's so much niche curation that's going on. So that's very much a we thing. You know, what do you love? You know, we love this, and we want to tell the world that we love this. That's really big. Picking up on Marie Cornelia's question there, I think the difference for me between Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter, from a we space perspective, is the Hangouts. Mm-hmm. That's got to be one of the main things. I've done the analysis on Twitter and Facebook, and that's one of the other things, and Instagram actually. And YouTube, I count, is closer to Google+. But the community exists. It absolutely exists on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. And some of those communities are incredibly strong. Some of those groups are, you know, thriving. But what we are doing here as a Hangout on Air, I think makes a tremendous difference. But having people who are participating in that space, co-creating, co-directing, part of it is what's always got me excited. And I think that there is the opportunity. You can do things with Skype. You can do things with... It's different. And that's why, in a way, it's been hard for people to understand Google+, because it's huge. And as I mentioned search, but it is YouTube, and it is Google Maps, and it is Gmail, and it is Drive, and all of these other things, or, you know, it's all linked. So I feel that Twitter is very often shouting across a public space and spreading across a public space. I feel Facebook is so determined by your friends, family, social graph that you've got, and that will really determine the information. The information that I get on Google+, I curate so carefully my stream, and I love the stuff I have on Notify. I am choosing all of the time what comes at me, because I know that, I mean, particularly now with collections, I can choose really specific things from people. So I don't feel I've got the same ability to do that on Twitter or on Facebook. So I think that's getting stronger for Google+.
And this is the wisdom part. We are talking here about wisdom, which Google allows us. No, Google+. And
yeah, and I think that it all comes down whoever you connect with. whoever you spend your time with is what it ends up being about. And if you get that from Twitter and Facebook, that's cool. And you may get it from other non-social platforms that are social. You know, the Integral community is huge, but it's not necessarily all in one place because you have other members areas and other discussion forums and so on. It's wherever the people are that you're connected or most connected to is the wee space. And it just happens that this is one that I think is awesome.
Very effective one. Let's see the comment here, Margarita.
Yeah, Lowen Ann Folsang says, Martin Shervington, we know about the value of this V-space, but I'm wondering how we help the person on the street overcome their fear of online participation.
I think it's a really good question, Noelle. I think that my instant response is to put my little analysis hat on, and I almost go, just let them be. And then I stop and go, okay, if they want to participate, but they have fear, then that's where the door starts to open. Because so often I think in the early days, we were almost expecting people to rush in, and everyone should be online, and everyone should plug in, and everyone should, and it's kind of not like that. I mean, I've spent months now in the real world, and for businesses, they're like, all I care about is customers coming through the door. So in the same way, for an individual, I don't think necessarily that everybody needs to get onto social. I think people who have passions can find people that also have similar passions on social, and I think that's great. So if they have passions and they're frightened about that, then the door opens. And that's where just almost hand-holding people, if there's a good connection, and they say, I'd love to do that, but I'm frightened, just making it safe and making them feel comfortable. And the best way to do that is through a personal connection. There's so many difficulties, there's so many little hurdles, but once they've been overcome, it's okay. One of them is a technical hurdle, which is I've got to learn new things, and there's buttons to click, and I don't know what the buttons do. You have to go through that. That's a hurdle. Then you have another one. Who is watching? How do I deal with any issues that come up? And again, you have another hurdle. How do I find the right people for me? And then another look. And once you've got that kind of set and you're done, then it's awesome, because you can move forward looking at the content, you can be working together, you can be reaching out, people take your calls. That's when social is beautiful. But it's a journey. And it took me, you know, when I say 10,000 hours, I spent at least 10,000 hours doing the social stuff and doing a lot of analysis on it as well. And there's times where you have to learn things and it's not comfortable, you know. So I think that that's one of the things to start with is if people have a passion for something and they're happy to learn, then handhold.
You are really expressing for me, in my opinion, an integral perspective. As you say, it's not for everybody the same thing. And they can choose and they can learn. And the passion is one thing, and then to go for it and do what you need to do, even if it's uncomfortable, is another thing. And somebody will be ready, somebody won't, you know. And in Integral, we also talk about levels of development, and some people are not yet in the, let's say, in the orange mindset when they think to need to use technologies. They here around, they are hacking their garden. You know, why should they go on internet? So,
and I have the same experience, Heidi. Yeah, they're very much for businesses as well. It's, you know, ultimately, what do they want? They want the customers, and so we've got to make it as easy as possible for them to get that positive experience.
Yeah.
And I think
the other thing. Yeah, I wanted to add is that you and the people around you, and a little bit also we all together who are here, we are sort of pioneers in that, and we don't have to forget that. We are the ones on the, you say...
it's actually a Wilber quote. Pioneers are the ones with the arrows in their backs.
Yeah.
So I always tell myself, we shouldn't be disappointed if people don't understand our passion for these things, you know, because it's not yet there. Not yet. Maybe they come there, maybe they can't. They won't, you know.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
I remember when I was on I was on LinkedIn in 2004, and I was on Facebook, I think 2007, and I joined Google Plus, to me a little bit late, which is March 2012. And each time I've gone, this is really cool, this is great, and I've remembered my friends just going, what is wrong with you? You're just a weirdo doing all these things, I said, but it's kind of like, it's really good, you can connect with people and so. And then, little by little, people very often find something. And they go, oh, I start to see how that works for me. And I've stopped pushing. And it's if people want to join, that's cool. And I think business people, there's such a strong movement towards community-based businesses and businesses that have much more of a community support. Fans of a business, essentially, are your community. They are the ones which are very often around, and it doesn't take hundreds of thousands, depends on the business. But if you have 150 fans of your business, that any time somebody says, well, I'm thinking about this thing, yeah, you need to go and see Heidi and Mark. That's who you need to go to. That's what this allows you to do, is to find people that relate to, that connect with you, that engage with you, and that bit by bit become potentially fans. And you can do the same thing in the real world. And I think if we're talking about the we space, that's community. This is beautiful for community building, because you can really connect with people using these tools. And look, you look at this, and I always use this example, the Hangouts on Air, and I've got to tell, if people aren't doing this, this is where the beauty is of this medium. We have a live event, we have the interaction, I can come to the event thread after and we can connect. That's great. That's right here, right now. And people are, as we say, co-creating and directing. After the event, this is the key thing, is that piece of content can be cut into slices, can have a front end and a back end, and each of those can be optimized and appear in YouTube search and appear in Google search, 3-minute segments, 5-minute segments. You can put that onto a web page, you can transcribe those. I have a transcriber that's less than $1.50 a minute, and that is a really useful piece of content. So I think Hangouts on Air are a way to get to that as much as they are the live event experience. And when people do that, content is storytelling. So if you have the ability to tell a story and drip feed it on an ongoing basis, and people find it in search, this is great. This is why, again, the we space is, and also, let's say I'll bring it up. I mentioned Michael Thomas. Hi, Michael Thomas. Michael is then invested as part of this event. So if I say, okay, I'll read Michael's question. So some of us have a passion for purpose, some have a passion for quality interactions, and some have passion for quality awareness. It just depends on how much you are willing, I guess, to follow up and proceed with the next. Now that suddenly becomes brought in as a piece of content. And Michael's been on lots of the shows and is now part of this event as well, and it creates another connection. And potentially, if we're talking about awareness and we're talking about choices and we're talking about relationships, that's to me so much of what these are tools for helping to build relationships. I'll stop there.
Yeah. And it's so wonderful, because it's not just a relationship like in the traditional sense a business owner would do with a future client, trying them to, get them a little bit. But we really build relationships in a different way from human to human. Also, I believe, I don't know what you think, that in the world out there, it is not yet so normal. I mean, what we hear talking with friends like yesterday.
Yes. We had some super orange friends, and they had a completely different sort of experience online with the people they worked with.
But it's all to do with the people that you'll spend your time with. You will have a radically different experience based on, if you're talking in Google terms, based on the circles that you have. And the people, wherever you put your attention, it will determine your experience. The same thing on Facebook. If your friends of a certain nature, if they're all into water sports and they're posting pictures of windsurfing and surfing, that's your world in that particular environment. And if they're all posting on science, then that's your world. And I think that the ability on Google Plus is for people to arrive, to build the network for them now. What are they into now? What inspires them now? And that is an opportunity. And then you start to build up the connections. You start to, I'm going to come to that question in a second. You start, the comment, hello, Tammy. You start to build up your own base. People start to know you for something. People start to come to you because you are talking, you have a reputation about a certain thing. The reputation eventually turns into authority, which is where it shows up in search. And I believe that everybody has the opportunity to find their groove, but it takes time. Yeah, and it takes content. You have to write. You have to have people that trust. Well, actually, your content has to be trusted. In other words, that people have to see that piece of content, engage upon it, and be willing to put their name to it. Every time there's a +1, little face appears. That's somebody saying, I'm willing to publicly display, if it's a public post, that I either recommend that, support that, view that, as acknowledge that, and so on. And I think this is where there's a mapping that needs to happen. But over time, Google's algorithms sees all of this. And the people that are engaging on your content and spreading your content, that signals to Google that maybe other people should see it. And there's a whole process. I mean, I'm making I'm making a meal of trying to explain that. But the opportunity here is to become, or to display your uniqueness. Let's come to Tammy's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tammy's so much more collaboration and partnerships with business that I would never have if not on Google+. Totally agree, Tammy. And I think that has been a cultural thing for years now, is what can we do together? What can we do together? And you bring something to the party, somebody else brings something to the party, and suddenly it's a different sort of party. And I've done so many different infographics and so many little mini projects and so many courses and so on. And it's because the tech makes it easy. Yeah, we have this, which means we can communicate and we can bring in ideas. Google Drive allows you to crowdsource information in just such an easy fashion. Even comment threads, private communities. Sorry, Heidi.
Yeah, I wanted also to say, apart from the search from the machines, but also ourselves, when we get content or ideas presented several times, the first time you still think, oops, the second time, oh, I have heard that, the third time, oh, maybe it's interesting, the fourth time maybe you read it, and the fifth time you get maybe excited. I think this is the big possibility which is here given. And so this is our hope, and we already have seen that here have participated people who had no idea about Integral, and would never have come when we said this is Integral, and then they say, oh, this is interesting, because it's not only theory which we are explaining. So, but who then wants to know what is behind your worldview, your ideas, what is behind our ideas or other people's ideas who are operating inside of this perspective? Then they might get interested to get to the first book, And
yeah, and the word you used, perspective. You get people's perspectives. And the more times I use David Amland, I mean, if you don't follow David, follow David. He's an amazing guy. I need his perspective, and he knows that. I go to him. I went to him this weekend. I said, I'm thinking about doing this, and he went, you just think of it and I just went, okay. And that's all it takes. You just have to have those people that you can go to. And you've got to allow it in. And it would come to this point that Maria's made. There is no sell in that situation. I mean, I've got a map that involves allies, and you have tribe members or community members and so on, which you can Google and you'll probably find the articles around that. There is a time for selling, and the time for selling very often is private, and I have a process which I use, so I'm getting into the details here. Shall I read what Maria is saying? I say, what I understand from what you were saying is that also in a hangout like this one, the issue is not about selling your thing, but also about creating something altogether. With not knowing what will be the result, this is a mind shift, let's say. I haven't got the last bit of the comment. Absolutely, in this situation, it's just going to be whatever it is, based upon who is here and how the information comes through and where you pay attention. That's it. I think that this is one tool. Hangout on Air is one tool. It's a live event. You can have private hangouts, and you can sell in that situation. And I tend to be explicit and tell people it's going to be a sales call. If we drop in here, we're going to do a sales call. And this is what I'm looking at selling. And I'll do that very often privately because I'm putting together processes that help people by teaching them how to do that. So this is one of my principles. Everything I learn, I teach. And Mark, you were joking about being the pioneer. Sometimes it's hard because you will not be successful. You will fail if you push it into boundaries that have never been done. That's how it is. But through the experience, you get better. And the next thing you do, you get better, and you keep iterating, you keep changing. I think neurolinguistic programming is very good for understanding what the factors are. Also, organizational psychology, I always look at variables. What is occurring here in order for these results to be happening? Is it me? Is it it? Is it them? Is it the product? What is going on? So you start to analyze what's happening. And one of the issues with social is we often throw things out. We can get a tremendous amount of attention, but turning that attention into business leads a process. And very often happens on websites. But this here is about having a conversation. It just happens it's a different form of conversation. It's a live conversation. It's an interactive conversation.
So, Martin, you are talking about selling. Can you give me a try, or can I do a try? Because I want to sell something which doesn't cost anything.
Okay.
And right on top from Mark, there is a bit.ly link, Wisdom Gold. This is our colleague and friend Lawrence Gold, who has been twice here in the Wisdom Factory, and he in August will begin a free online training of his gold key release, Wisdom Practice. So tell me if it was pushing or was it good enough?
No, it's great. So what I would say was that with all these things, what often we don't have is the feedback loops. This has been, and this is something that I've been working on this last week, is we can ask somebody, can everybody here now go and bit.ly/wisdom gold, because that's the other thing, is this can get turned into a podcast which doesn't have the video, so they can't see the link. Right? So it's always thinking like, what is the mode of communication? If everybody goes there, but then you have to track how many people click the link. So you have to go to bit.ly and look at, did the call to action work? Then you have to look at the next stage, how many people signed up for the course versus how many people click the link, and you track it through. And I think there's another part to it, which is about openness and transparency, is, okay, you mentioned it was a free course. When's he going to try and sell something, or is he just giving it away? And if he's just giving it away, why do I need to give my email? And I don't know if you have to, email address. And if you can deal with all of those things, then that's trust. You create trust, and then you have to deliver on that promise, as opposed to sign up and you're going to get upsold into this next thing. And I think that's something which, the more transparent you are about your intentions, the more positive the response is that tends to come. And we are open. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, we're out there in the world. You put something out there, people feel things that you may not know, but some will say things that they feel. And that, again, it creates a feedback loop.
Yeah, wonderful. So let me first finish, because this normally I say at the end. On the other side, there is also a bit.ly link, and this is something where you can buy something. And this is from John Dupuy. I don't know if you know him. He is iAwake Technologies. The bit.ly is bit.ly/IAWAKE. Okay, I got it. And this is, he opened up this season, and that's also why I want to point to it. And he really used technology, audio technology, to work on the mind, to work on the brain, to work on our psyche. And so there you can go and find all his products. I know him for 10 years now, or even more, and I did quite a while the audio courses, and it helps.
Yes, it does.
How was that?
Great. And I think people know what they're getting, and they can make a choice then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, the selling
It's
for
great.
today is over, and also for this season. Thank you.
Except the indirect selling of just ourselves and our presence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Etc.
And that's your brand building. I mean, that's a really big part of it. And I think that's what this allows. If we go back to the question about Facebook and Twitter, this technology helps people connect with you. It really does. And those that do connect, they go, okay, I'm going to follow more closely. I'm going to listen. And we talk about micro moments from a business perspective in selling. And it's like people might need 10 or 20 different touch points with pieces of information, with people, with that post. And everything, this is, have the attitude, big thing here, that everything's public. If you have the attitude that everything's public within the social space, then it makes it easier because you're doing your best. You try and do it. Don't get me wrong, nobody, I say nobody, maybe there will be, but I know that I sometimes don't do as good as I could have done as the first thing, the first exchange. But you've got to kind of forgive yourself and move on. And that's kind of like part of the journey. And it is a journey. And it changes how you view the world. It changes how you view tech, how you view technology. It may change how you view relationships. It certainly has for me. It changes opportunities. Because the more that people go, do you know what, that person's all right, I quite enjoyed that, then the next person they speak with about them, the reputation spreads. They say, yeah, I enjoyed a hangout. It wasn't just talking about Google Plus. He actually talked about other stuff once in a while, like relationship or whatever. You know what I mean? But that spreads information. So instead of going, okay, this is the one shot. If I don't do it now, then it's no. You just keep doing it. You just keep having the conversations. And but I keep missing. There we go. I keep missing the comments that come up. Lawrence. I think it's largely a matter of listening for what others need and being of service or presenting a resource that meets that need. That being selling, absolutely. And you can. It's the principle is how do you have a conversation with somebody? And this is one big conversation because it's public and anyone can be there. It's like then you can have private conversations. You can email people. So the technology allows the conversation to happen. Whatever the conversation's about is based upon whatever you've connected on. And sometimes you might collaborate. That happens. I mean, I love the serendipity that can occur in the platform. And you just reach out to people and just go, hey, could you be interested in, because I noticed you, and they say yes. And if the vibe is there, and if they trust that your intent is good, and that takes time often to build up that trust, or they go and verify that, do you know that person? Oh, yeah, they're fantastic. They've worked on so many projects. This, again, takes time. I've been on this platform for over 1,000 days, and you look at the interactions that occur, a lot occur in the background. A lot occur in the Hangouts, a lot occur in private community, a lot occur in private communities. And that's, people build a map of me, I build a map of people. And that's what we're all doing. And it's what happens in real life. But your broadcasting is seen by people, and you don't know who. This is one of the big differences. Even if they +1, you're still not building a map of all the +1s that person connected with you on. And particularly as your content becomes more popular, it becomes harder to know who's paying attention until you take it to the next step. And this is why I think private communities are so important. Because Dunbar's number, 150 really close relationships, I kind of believe that. I think it's really hard to have close relationships with thousands of people. I certainly my little brain can't handle that. You can have loose connections and then they reappear, but they're not necessarily top of mind. So private communities allow people to be top of mind more of the time.
And I have to interrupt and say that we're getting towards the end of our time now. So I'm thinking we need to wind up with takeaways or something. What happened while we were together here today?
I would first still, because maybe you said it before, we were not there, what has Integral brought to your consciousness, to your business, to your way of being in the world? The knowledge of Integral. Because we are an Integral salon, let's say, where we want to be a place where people can get information about it and be inspired to jump into this worldview, So how is it for you?
I'm just going to say thank you to Carrier. If I said your name wrong, Carrier Jones. So thank you for that for that comment. So when integral, it's a bit like, well, it's in me. It's been in me for a long time. The perspective is there. I've read probably everything from the Atman Project, Up from Eden, through to, well, then I went back to Spectrum of Consciousness, and then Integral Theory, and then Theory of Everything, Integral Psychology. I read all of that in my late 20s, early 30s, and then I went into Robert Keegan, Viant, Adaptations to Life, Basicci's touched on with dialectical thinking, and so all of this stuff. Once you've read it, once you've embodied it, you speak from that perspective, particularly if you bring awareness. So very often I run around the 4 quadrants when I'm talking. So that's the starting point. I think that from a business perspective, as soon as it's been the theme here, what has happened for me is the we. The I'd been meditating for, I don't know, as I say, since 22, and various different Buddhist traditions, and one tradition for over 10 years. And so the I was really strong, the it and the technology and the measurement, the behavior, and because of my psychology background, all of that, it's the we. The we isn't a bunch of I's coming together. The we is something that's different, as in they don't just stand alone. It's different, and that's what I felt here. And it's because of the Hangouts, it's because of the technology, it's because of the it's domain. But the culture, first it's what you make it, and it can go any which direction, but unless it's positive and moving forward, you find that people aren't necessarily going to last that long around, because it's, you want to feel excited. And that's where I think the great opportunity is to allow the conversations, the connections to lead to whatever happens. And I go back to it, communities. Communities are we spaces, but you have to run them. And a lot of people, the public communities in particular, there's just content just shared in, and it's just a distribution mechanism. It's not about the relationships with the people. It's not about the conversations. Don't go on, not all of them, but there's a lot that have gone that way. And I think that the integral perspective is know what is going on. Look at this through integral lenses. Know that not everyone's at the same view. That's something which is very, very important. And I mentioned about the handhold and the support. And Heidi, you can see there's a gentle process. And I try and slow everyone down when they join the community. It's like, it doesn't just happen in an instant, but you'll find your groove. But it takes time. It could take months. It could take you. But the more conversations you have, the more you hang out, the more you give, the more that people will start to feel that you care. And I think that's the great opportunity of social.
Wonderful. I want to pick up a moment. You said the we is not just a collection of I's, and I want to bring it on what we are doing. We want to bring out relationship work, because so many relationships, love relationships, are 2 I's, and they don't create the we, like this, and life experience and all these other stuff, psychology and whatever, and Ken Wilber has brought us to find out that relationships can be completely different. But it needs first the awareness, and then also the work. And one of the main works, as we know in Integral, is shadow work.
Shadow work. Yes, now I'm completely clear, transparent, that's all gone, no more.
Come on. What do they say? Wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. And that's what we are already doing. If we have cleaned up everything, I did some cleaning in the house this morning. I don't know. Anyway.
That's important too.
Yeah. So it's really important that we create the we space, and we do our best offering the community to do that. So this is my sort of last work.
Yeah, that's good. Word. Okay.
And you?
Oh, I just need some time to reflect on so much that's been said, because I have this orange allergy against achievement and the abuses of modern life, etc. And I'd really not like. I prefer not to have to deal with those orange issues, and so I'm behind in some things that I should be able to integrate into a larger view and be comfortable with.
But
So,
as to in these times of life, we become 100. We don't die with 70 or 80, so we still have time to learn that. Okay.
there's more to do.
Yeah, but Margarita and you, thank you for having stepped in, because I have seen that there was something going on with my Chromebook today. So
Nice to be here. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
your takeaway, I want to have you included a little bit at least.
Well, it's very great to have a real guru in our presence who has the knack of knowing what. So thank you very much.
I think that's you, Heidi and Mark, and that's the pair of you.
This is the problem with this computer. The earbuds don't work. That's why I use the other one. But today, unfortunately, I had to use this one. Sorry. So
Shall I say my final words? Shall I say
Yes.
my final words?
Yeah.
It's a journey. It's a real journey. And I can see from the comments, and thank you to everybody for being part of it. And thanks to Heidi and Mark and to Margarita as well. There's times it's tough. And this is the thing. And people want to see all of the positive in social. And I think that's kind of the right way to do it, is to find the people that you're going to have the private conversations with and to work through your stuff if you're going to do it online, and to get the perspectives and have the edges taken off you, and to get rid of the spikiness and to get rid of the things that make you want to respond with anger, and do it all kind of over there, you know. And it can be your crew. But it doesn't need, you go through the process, and when you go into the town square, when you go out into public and you go and you have those conversations, you do your best. And you do your best. And the more passionate you are about something, the more people go, wow, you're into that thing. You're really into that thing. What's that thing that you're into? Let me have a look at that. Let me see why you, what is it all about? And some people will become curious. And I think that's what you find in your groove in social. And I think that's probably the same as if you could move anywhere in the world, and you could go and surf any break, and you could go and, you know, climb any mountain. This is kind of what you can do. But it takes time, and it's a journey, and you just have to have the people around you that you relate to the best during that time. And some people will come, some people will go, but you stay the course. And I think writing, I think events, I think including people, all of that really, really helps you to find your voice.
We need to find our voice, yes.
yes.
And you know, I'm a voice teacher. I do also that.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say it is a journey, and the beauty is the journey. We don't need to go to a fixed goal and wait until we are there, but be happy with the journey. And this is also a new way of seeing life, that we enjoy the journey and not just run and run and run and have only the goal in the future. So thank you.
And the people around you. Let's enjoy the people around, and let's do the collaborative projects, and let's do the fun things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Thank you so very, very much that you came with us and closed out our season. And the next season will start probably only in November, and it will be about what? About
relationships. Yes.
It will be like that. So in the meantime, we'll do other things sporadically. You say that sporadically, but the next season will be in November. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.